Okay, we're going to give this a shot. I'm going to start off with an 11 by 14 canvas board. I like them. To me, it's easier to frame, and it's a way lot less expensive. I've already put some gesso on it. Supposedly they're pre-gessoed, but I wanted to try it today with getting the gesso. And I'm going to paint in the background, sky, some ground, distant ground, and some close-up foreground. And then we will get out the chalk and sketch in our figure. And I'm going to use a rather large brush to try and cover quickly so that I can blend. And I'm going to start off with some primary magenta and yellow. Just remember, you kind of do your canvas in thirds. So I want this up here is going to be kind of my sky. I just added a little bit of Hansa yellow because it's opaque and has good coverage. And I did not rinse my brush. And add a little bit more red over here. And I am going to use my finger, hopefully, to try and blend some of those colors in. Okay, maybe some more yellow down here. A little more yellow in that. Oh, made a nice pretty orange. Let's blend some more. And if you find that it's drying on you, you can just kind of add a little water to your finger. And if you can see, there are some spots where you can kind of see the white of the canvas coming through. I really like that yellow. It's the first time I've used it. It's got nice coverage. But anyways, you can see some of the white coming through. We're going to come back in and add more color to that. Now I want to switch to some greens. Let me rinse my brush. I have two shades of greens. I have like a bright green and a dark green. Now things that are further away from you look lighter, so I'm going to start off with the lighter green. And as you can see, that's kind of see-through, but that's okay because we are going to go over it. And I'm not worried about the direction of my brush stroke right now, because this is the underpainting. Now we're getting a little closer, and I'm not going to rinse. I'm going to throw in the darker green. A little bit more, some water. A better flow. And I kind of want it to curve around this way, because we're going to have like a dirt patch where our woman is going to be standing. Okay, and again, it's the undercoating, so we're gonna rinse again, and some burnt sienna and some yellow ochre. I have a mixture of different types of paints here. I have some student quality, latex basics, and I've been slowly upgrading. I've been buying the Goldens from Dick Blick, and they have pretty decent prices, and depending on how much you spend, you can get it to where it is free shipping. And trust me, you know, when you're talking, you know, $11, $12 for a tube of paint, or these I believe were like $6, the larger size, you know, for the ones that, the colors that you would use a lot of, you know, the popular ones like titanium white, the burnt sienna, the yellow ochre, you know, because they're such widely used colors that, I've got to get my paper towel here. You would probably want to go ahead and invest in the bigger tube because, you know, you definitely get more bang for your buck. So what I'm going to do now is my little island part. I'm going to add in my burnt sienna and my yellow ochre, and I'm just going to kind of like wet on wet blending, and it could probably use a little bit of titanium white in it as well to you know, give it some lighter spots. And I'm going to switch brushes. It's also, I'm new at using these bigger brushes, but I'm going to switch brushes so that I feel like I have just a little bit more control over this color blending. And let's see. And again, it's kind of, it gives it that aged, and remember, lighter is further away, so if you want to give it a little depth, you put your darker colors towards the bottom, and work it in like that. Let me get some more white over here. So I want it to look like a dirt patch. A little more white. Not, Okay, let that dry a little bit and work on it some more in a little while. Always keep your brushes rinsed because acrylics dry very, very fast. And I'm just kind of winging it on this. I kind of have an idea in my head what I want, and hopefully we're going to be able to do that. Let me come back to my big brush. Oops, sorry. I'm just rinsing all this brown out of it. Tell you what, water gets muddy quick. I try to keep 2 jars, and then, you know, when it's dry time, I'll sit there and go and get myself some fresh water. I'm just trying to make this darker here. And it's, you know, it's going to be a grassy area, so I'm not overly concerned with my brush stroke. And this could have been with the, you know, the opaqueness of the colors here, meaning they aren't very covering of the white. You probably could have done what they call a wash. It's an underpainting of your color, and that way, you know, no white would show through. It would it just covers a little better. But I was hoping that with the gesso, and again that's like the first time I'm trying it on these canvas boards, that it would have better coverage than what it is doing. So, just trying to get these white spots. And it is not doing what I expected. So, I'm going to go back into my light green and revisit this, brighten that up. I switched back to my smaller brush because I just feel like I have more control. I was watching this other YouTube video, and the lady paints with these really huge giant brushes. I'm talking huge, and I'm going, I could never. I knew for backgrounds, in order to be able to work the paint while it was wet and get the blending, that I needed a bigger brush because I couldn't cover my canvas fast enough before the paint dried, and I just wasn't getting the desired effect. And so I did get some bigger brushes, as you saw. May not necessarily be the proper brush, but it was cheap at Walmart, so I got it. It was like a pack of 2 of that size brush, maybe 1.5 inches for $3. So just for playing around and learning purposes, I thought that would be just perfect. So I'm going to pause this video and let this dry, and when we come back we will continue. This is opportunity for you to catch up, tweak anything that you want to tweak, go back, add a second layer if you would like, darken, lighten, throw some white in, whichever way you feel that's going to make you get that look that you are desired to look for. So, wow, I just looked at my camera, and these colors are really bright in the camera. Okay, so we're pausing, and we will return. Okay, break time's over. We're back, and for the most part, it looks like it's dry. Now, of course, you can always speed up your drying by taking your blow dryer to it now, and you don't get real close because it's not the heat that dries it, it's the air. But I do not have a blow dryer, if you can believe that. But it feels, except for this green here, for the most part it feels dry. So we're going to work in this upper part. And up here I want to have some trees. And I'm going to use my burnt sienna to draw in these trees. Now these trees are small because they're off in the distance, and I'm going to just start off with a thin line and give it branches. And trees, of course, are fatter at the bottom, and they get thinner as they go up. Okay, so I'm just going to give it some branches. And then I'm going to want another one over here, but it's going to be slightly smaller. Take him down a little further, slightly smaller. Like him, give some variety in height. And one more tree over here, and even again a little smaller. Hopefully this is going to give us some depth in our painting. And because this is kind of an abstract style, I think I want purple leaves. So I am going to get out my dioxine, I believe is how it's pronounced, purple. Just a touch. And this really old beat up stiff brush, I'm going to smush it down to kind of spread those bristles out, if you can see, like that. And I'm going to just dip a little bit into my purple, dab off the excess, and I'm going to come up and dab in some purpleness. And I'm just tapping straight on like you were pushing a button. Okay. Doesn't look so purple right now, it kind of looks black. So I'm going to take and go into a little bit of white. And, oh, now we're seeing some purple. And dab that in. And, you know, because we're not doing a detailed painting of a leaf, by doing this dabbing tapping, I'm getting a little bit more white, this dabbing tapping method, we just kind of give the illusion and keep it random. You don't want patterns. Okay, I'm thinking that I like those. And when my burnt sienna dries, I'll come back and revisit my trunks. Like this guy here needs, I think, to be a little bit thicker. But they just kind of look like they're floating there a little bit. So I want to try and ground them. And so what I'm going to do is make it look like some leaves have fallen onto the ground around them. Could even be flowers, you know. But just a little bit like that. I think that helped. Don't you? Maybe some dark. Yeah, I like that. Also, too, I think, rinse my brush, I think that I want a tree that is close up. I want to dry this one good because we'll be using that to work on our dirt some more. I think that's, no, that's actually pretty good. Okay, so let's do that first. I just rinsed the purple out of my brush, dried it pretty good, and I'm going to get into my yellow ochre and my white, and I'm going to try and scrape, they call it scumbling, I believe, some color in here, and it went a little lighter than I wanted. It's like dry brushing and scraping it in to get the colors to mix. So I'm going to get a little bit more of the burnt sienna and try and just really am not getting the effect that I want. And I've done it a million times, but just because I decided to tape this today, it's not going to work for me. So I'm tapping like I did with the leaves, trying to give this a texture to make it look as though it could possibly be a patch of dirt. And you know what? Sometimes when it just doesn't work, you should just quit and let it dry. But maybe when we get our lady on there and our other tree, it'll kind of ground that a little bit. Okay, let me rinse it out so that it's ready the next time I need to use it. Ready and dry. Okay, so now I want my burnt sienna again, and I'm going to put a tree over to this side. And it's not going to be in full view. It is going to come off the canvas from, oh, maybe about 1.5 inches or so off the bottom. And it's just a squiggly line. And this one, it's close. Our girl will be standing right next to it. And we're going to try and fill that in. You know, some people say you can't use just pure browns because they look dull. This burnt sienna kind of has a red tint to it. And so I really don't think it looks dull at all. I run that branch off the canvas there. And we're going to add some smaller branches. Go long. We should run this one off too. It looked like it just abruptly ended. Go long. Thicker towards the base of the tree. Bring in some squigglies. That one went a little fat on me. If I had a smaller brush, this would work easier. Let me switch. I am not a loose painter. I like to have control of my stuff. One coming off of here. Just kind of runs off. And you put your branches where you'd like. This is just starting, of course, you know, you see the paint's coming through. We will have to go back and revisit that brown. Not so sure that this is coming together. It is, it will. Like I said, I have this vision in my head. I kind of want like a bird bath over here and a woman standing here. And let me see. Okay. Whoops. Down there is not dry yet because we played with that. But we can get our chalk and draw in. Won't be perfect. We're just going to kind of sketch it in our bird bath over here in the green. And to, you don't draw a perfect circle because you're not looking straight down on top of it. So you kind of do it like an oval. Okay. And then we're going to give it a base. Now the bottom, it's down lower, so it is more rounded. Okay, and it kind of pulls in, so it's got like an inner circle. And never said I could draw. And then you adjust that with paint. And then I'm going to want a little bird sitting, a couple of birds sitting on it. Now, our woman, I can't come down into this yet because it is still wet. She is, we're going to say that her head is about here. So we'll give her a head. And now maybe her head is up here. See? Chalk, you can just rub it away. Her head might be up here. And then her shoulders, we're going to make kind of like a little bit longer. Now if you were to stand in the mirror and look at yourself, you would see that your torso is 2 of your heads. Your thighs are 2 of your heads, and your calves down to your foot are 2 of your heads. Your arms are also, okay, a little bit longer. Your arms are also 2 heads. You've got a head for the upper and a head for the lower. If you could get your elbow to, you know, the bend of your arm here to here is your size of your head. So it makes sense when you try to draw it in proportion like that, but since we are not anatomy experts and we did not study the anatomy, I mean, that's just kind of the basic. And this is going to be like a back view. So I'm going to bring her arm, and your elbows bend at your waist. So this arm is over here. We don't see that one. But this arm, she's kind of reaching out and holding, it's a little fat, holding her arm up in the air. Almost as if she's pointing at something. Thicken her up a little bit. Just a little sticky. And she's wearing a long dress. So, and you know, like I said, it's the back view, so we're just going to see her back, so we don't have to worry about trying to draw a face or trying to make the perfect flesh tone or anything like that. So we're going to, because these acrylic paints, you know, some of them just aren't very opaque, they're kind of transparent, we are going to take our white and block her in so that we get some coverage when we go to paint the color of her dress. So I'm just using my smaller brush to block her in, again because I feel like I have more control, and kind of rounded the bottom of her dress so that it looks like it's flared out a little. Okay, just adding her to it with that white, look at how much it kind of like pulled that together down here where it gave it the depth. Okay, so She's got some pretty broad shoulders, so let's bring her out a little more. I think I'd like her dress to be a little more flowy wide. Yeah, over here a little bit too. Maybe a little bit longer. A little bit more. And don't worry, if you mess up, it's not a big deal. You'll let it dry. Don't try to fix it when the paint's wet like I did down here, but now that I've added her into it, that doesn't look too bad to me. Let it dry, and you can go back and paint over it. And again, the only reason we're doing this white is because these paints don't cover the other colors. Even though I'm using, some of these are student grade, and some of them are professional artist quality, I'm not getting the coverage that I would like. Okay, and her hand, there's her elbow, there's her arm. Okay. You know, and because we aren't experts, we are just implying that this is a woman here. Our eyes, supposedly, from what I hear from watching other YouTube videos, our eyes supposedly fill in the blanks. Okay, let's come down right here a little bit. Elbows bend at your waist. Okay. We'll have to see. I'm going to come over and try and do the same to my bird bath with the white. Try to fill it in. I have to add some more white to my canvas. Okay. And if you used an angler brush, you get a nicer line. Come out a little bit wider over there. You know, it's easier to make the round, I wouldn't necessarily say a nicer line, but it's easier to get the round curve than if using this flat like I am. Okay. Just about out of white on my palette. Okay, don't get discouraged. This is how they say the underpainting. Okay, it's not looking like a whole lot yet. So I think maybe this tree close to us should be pink leaves. Maybe get some more white. Allow that white to dry, and then we can decide what color we would like her dress to be. And we have to think about a hair color. So I'm going to use my white and some of my primary magenta to get myself some pink tones. So I will take just a little bit of white, because remember, I'm just going to tap, and just a tiny smidgen. I mean, you heard of dashes and all that? Well, you want the dash. Not even a pinch, it's a dash to get your pink color. And you can Make it as bright or as light as you want. It's your painting. Okay, so let me, yeah, we're good. Get some pink on here. Hopefully I made enough. And we are going to start to tap. And tap. And because you know, it's not solid. I don't think I made enough. It's not solid. You can see through. So you want, you know, some of your skyline to be poking through the leaves. You know, you look at a tree and you see light coming through. Okay, changed up the color just a little bit. And we're tap, 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 tap. I forget who I watched and she used to say that. I think her name was Allison Pryor here on YouTube, and she'd say, you tap, 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 tap. You just tap, 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 tap. And I'm moving my canvas. Let me check and make sure we're still in view here. Yeah, we're looking good. Wow, I can't believe the color difference between the camera lens and what's actually in front of me. It's kind of unbelievable. Okay. And some more. Straight magenta there. There we go. That's adding. Tap, tap, tap. A little bit more. Up over here, closer to the tree. Might be a little darker. You know, closer to the base of the tree. Little bit more. Okay. I think I'm going to stop with that for now. We can always go back and add more. Sometimes less is more. Rinse that brush so that it's dry in case I need to do that again. Get all that pigment out. So here it is, Saturday morning, and John took off for work, and Jenna is still sleeping. And I get some private time. I'm so excited. Okay, so what do you think? What color should the dress be? Should we... Let's play with some teal. Give her a teal dress. Let me get this other brush. Rinse, rinse, rinse. Still recording? We are. And my battery is just about dead, so I think we are going to have to pause here and let me recharge. And we will come back. Let it dry. Okay, so we got a little bit of charge back on the camera so we can start to work again, and it gave time for me to think and for our paint to dry. So now I'm going to take that dabbing brush again and I'm going to put a little bit of each of my green colors on it, and I'm going to just stroke up. I want to give our field, our green meadow here, some texture. And you know, I dab it in, tap it off. Oh, it's a little darker than I wanted. And remember, acrylics dry darker than when they go on. But that was just looking a little too flat for me. And you know, I'm really am not trying to do a realistic painting here. I want it to be kind of fun, whimsical, and abstract. But that was just too flat for me. So this just I don't know, it just kind of adds a little texture. And we're going to tap in some flowers in there. And I think I'm going to do the same thing down here in the foreground. Not quite as much, you know, maybe, that doesn't show up as much. Let's get a little bit more of our lighter green on it. There we go. Maybe, you know, down towards the bird bath here. And, you know, all grass doesn't grow the same direction, so don't just, you know, go straight up and down, to have a little angle to it. We haven't painted that bird bath in, but yeah, I'm liking that a little better. Scratching it up a little, giving it some texture. Helps to add some depth. Remember, if it's lighter further away, supposedly darker when you get closer, when you want to add that depth. So, just a little bit more over here. Try not to, my canvas here keeps moving every time I touch it. I need like a gripper mat or something underneath it. Okay, so we're going to leave that alone. Less is more. Clean this brush, let it dry out, because we will be using it again, I'm sure. And I think I've decided to try to go with a teal for her dress. So I'm going to get that out, and I'm using Golden brand. And, you know, these professional paints are, I'm just going to put a little bit out because I tend to waste a lot of paint. And then, of course, when I'm mixing, I never mix enough, so in those cases, when you're mixing, it's kind of better to have more than what you think you're going to need, because you will never get the same color again. So I am going to get my small angle brush so that I can have a little more control. And when I say small, I'm talking small. It's like maybe 1/4 inch. And I'm going to start working some of this teal onto this white and see what we come up with. We're going to work it in. Work it in. And it, you know, if you're good at mixing your own colors, I can't remember the recipe for making teal, but I would almost rather not have to mix my own colors. Now, if it comes to, you know, getting a value, a lighter or darker value, you know, you add white to lighten it up, and you know, I'm fine with that. But to sit there and, oh, yellow and blue makes green, and, you know, I just don't ever seem to get the right color. I'd almost rather buy the pre-mixed and go from that, and then just lighten it or darken it as I need to go, but have the base color that I need. Yeah, I think I'm liking that teal dress. And, you know, I'm not trying to get it a smooth coat because we want it to have these other colors, you know, flakes of it, strips, streaks, whatever, running through it. Except for, you know, like maybe right here where I might not have put enough white in there to cover the back. Okay. And come out here. And when you use one of these angle brush, you lead with the short side. And I feel like I have more control with the little angle brush. Come out here. Under elbow. Sorry if I'm getting quiet, I'm trying to concentrate because it's a smaller area there. And she's got some big shoulder over here to cover some of that with some hair. But hey, we didn't study anatomy, and we are just giving the implied. And our eye is going to do the rest for us. And her arm is bent. Okay. You can still see some of the white coming through, which is fine. I like that. I'm going to come back and I'm going to add some more white into it. And try and give it that rounded look. It's easier for me when I see someone do it, even though I've probably done it 100 times now, because I've been playing around with painting and I was trying to decide what do I like better. Do I like watercolors? Do I like the acrylics? I love the look of watercolors, but hey, maybe it's the age. I just can't seem to control my water, and you know, I'll like my focus image on it, and then I mess up the background, or I'll have a great background and my focus image just isn't right. And I know we're all our own worst critics, but it just I had a tough time with that. So now I'm going to add a little bit of white to my teal just to lighten the value, and I'm going to kind of just streak it in there. To kind of look, give her that rounded look. The sun, of course, since the sky's lighter, is over this way. She's not getting too much light from because the tree's there. And we're going to be covering up a lot of that with her hair. And maybe a little bit of the purple in there. can, whoops, clean that up. Hang on to your brush. You can, you know, blend it out with your finger. Just want to give it some depth here. Oops. Yeah, well, I should have waited for that to dry. And I want to separate her waist from her arm there. I'm going to drag that over that way a little bit. And if the finger blending doesn't work as well as you think, just dip your finger in a little bit of water and loosen that paint right up. And you can try to keep your fat finger on the dress and not run off into the other color there. Better blending on it. You know, I just got some new filbert brushes that I ordered from dickblick.com, and I haven't opened the package yet. But those are supposed to be the ones for getting the great blending, because it doesn't leave the harsh lines. They just came yesterday, and I need to, adding a little more teal in, I need to practice with it. A little more white. Whoops, that was a little more than I wanted. Blend it out. All the way down to the bottom there. That purple up here, maybe a little down here, a little more the waistline there. I went a little bit crazy with, so we're going to thin that out a little bit. Okay, so let's let that dry. And what color? I'm thinking like a light gray for our bird bath, which means I need to dig out the black. I wasn't going to use any black, but I want to make some gray. And when I say just a little bit, I'm talking like a tiny. We're back to dashes and smidges. This one's more of a smidge than a dash. I'm not even going to put it on my palette. I'm just going to squeeze it up and get a little bit on the tip of my brush. A little tiny bit. Find my white and mix them together. Add some more white. Whoops, a little teal went in there. That's okay. Okay. Now let's this bath a little bit. So it's a very light gray, and I'm kind of doing like a circular motion with my brush with the strokes so that it looks rounded. Okay. That will require some darkness in here for shadow. And I'm going to come up here. And up here to give it some depth, you know, make it look like it's got water in it. We'll have to add some darkness to it. Right now it doesn't look too much like a bird bath. And so I'm going to add just a little bit more black. Tiny little spot of my gray, darken it up. Maybe a little bit more than that. That was pretty watery. I don't want it too dark, I just want to show a little bit of shadow there. Okay, that might work. Let's see what we got here. So we're gonna, and of course the front part is thicker than the back because we can see more of it. And a little bit of darkness down in here. Too much. Some shadow down there. Maybe around the back edge here. So, what color hair does our girl have? Should she be a blonde? How about a brownish blonde, maybe? So, let's start with giving her, using our yellow ochre. Now, of course, this is the student grade, so it doesn't really have the coverage. Let's start with giving it a base coat. Looks pretty yellow on that, huh? Instead of mustardy. I'm going to come down, and that's going to be the undertone. Streaks. Oh, that teal wasn't dry. Hey, that's okay. Okay, so while we're waiting on that, we're going to get our old, poofy, hard used up. I'm going to spread it out. Mine's still a little damp. It's not dry as I would like it to be. We're going to do that, and we're going to tap in some flowers in our field. And I'm going to start tapping in with some white. And not everywhere. We're not going to cover the whole thing. Just going to put some in. We're going to imply, give the illusion that we've got some flowers out here. Okay, and I think I want to mix a little yellow in there. I use the same, not the cadmium yellow, the Hansa yellow. It's the opaque yellow that I used up in the sky there. Just giving it a little bit. Let's put some down here. I did not rinse my brush. And I'm going to press harder down here where it's closer to us and lightly tap the distance. Here. That one looks too patterned. Okay. See how that looks through the lens. We're getting there. She's got some green hair going on. That yellow and that teal. Let's see. I think maybe, whoops, try this off. I think maybe, a little pink in this dress too. Okay, still waiting on that yellow in the hair area to dry. How about when you work on some water here? Let's take a little purple and mix it in with our teal. And paint in our water. center. That. And I think over here I'm going to lead with the short end. Some blades of grass maybe. And that's, remember, they don't all face the same direction. It's kind of a mix between, oops, I just wiped it away, a mix between my two greens. My bright green, which is called light green, has a blue shade, and my chromium oxide green dark are the two greens. And not too much, just add a little bit there. And I think over here by the bird bath, I want to have some coming up through here. Help with that depth perception there. And we need to give her, imply that she has a hand that our little birdie is going to be sitting on. So we're going to take burnt sienna and some white, just a tad little bit of burnt sienna. And it's going to, burnt sienna's got like a red base, but it's going to give us a, like a tanned, whoops, too much, like a tanned up color to, yeah, it's dark. I don't want her that dark. She's a pale. Okay, so I'm not sure exactly what happened, if my battery died or if I ran out of memory card space, so we had to take a break. Allowed plenty of time for this to dry, and I charged and uploaded what was on my camera, and we've got plenty of space, hopefully enough battery. I'm not sure if you missed anything. I don't remember exactly where we were at last time either. We painted in the hand using a little burnt sienna and some white to make kind of a flesh tone. We added the flowers. I think we were trying to darken up our blades of grass down here, but I don't remember where we were at. I know that's terrible, but I just do not remember where we were at. So now we're going to add some finishing touches and then revisit the hair. So we're going to use some phthalo blue and make a bird, or two, or three, whatever we feel like. It's your painting, you do what you want with it. But we're going to take some of this blue and a small detail brush and try to paint in a bird sitting on her hand. So you're going to do kind of like an oval shape with a circle for the head and a line out for the beak. And fill that in, and the tail is just a little triangle. Okay? And then I'm going to add a bird sitting on the bird bath over here with our oval shape again. A little circular head, well, you can go back in and reshape, and a little line out for the beak. And again, this is one of my student grade colors, so it might take a few coats. It doesn't cover well. So those, you know, when you can afford to get artist quality, you probably should upgrade. And where'd you get that from? Oh, okay, yeah, that's a sewing pencil. It's okay. Sorry about that. I think I'm going to put another little guy over here. Oval shaped. Circular head. Beak. And triangle shape for the tail. And we'll have to come back in and do other coats on here. I want to make his body a little bigger. His tail come out a little more. Okay, so we'll have to come back to that when that dries. Back to her hair. I want to add some more streaks in it, and I think I'm going to mix a little bit of my yellow ochre into a little bit of burnt sienna, and I'm still using my little detail brush. Now we've done the yellow ochre as like her base layer, then we did streaks with the burnt sienna, then we did some streaks and some black, and now I'm going to add this mixture. Can't really see it that much. There we go. Into here to give it some highlights. And we also reshaped her head because her head looked like it was just sitting on her neck without, or her head looked like it was sitting on her shoulders and she had no neck. Okay, I think that's good, maybe, for the hair. Maybe a little more black right through there. Up towards her roots there. Yeah, I think I like that. Okay, rinse the brush out. And I think she needs like a belt or something. Her dress is just a little plain, and maybe a purple sash type belt. So we're going to take our dioxine, I think is how it's pronounced, purple, and just a tad bit of white to lighten it up so that it'll look purple and not black. And we're going to, right along her waistline here, give her a belt. Oh yeah, I think that made a huge difference. Huge difference on the dress, and maybe ever so lightly try to define that arm there. There we go. I like that. What else? Some flowers down here on our grass while we're waiting for our little birdies to dry. And, you know, in all this downtime, you remember, keep misting your palette so that you keep your paint wet, so you're not wasting your paint. So I'm going to take that same little detail brush and, oh, maybe some yellow flowers. And I'm going to just go like dots with the yellow ochre. And again, because it is student grade, it doesn't show. And I'm going to kind of dab it into a cone shape. And we'll do a few, not all of them, just a few. And one over here. That ought to stand out real nice if we can get it to show up. Dabbed into a cone shape. And then we let that dry. That's the worst part about painting. It's so much drying time. But, you know, it gives you a chance to sit back and take a look at it and see, what does it need? Does it need anything? What would make it better? Or do we need to take something away because we just did a little overkill? So we're going to let that dry. And like I said, if you have the blow dryer, you can speed up the process. And remember, it's not the heat, it's the air. So you put it on the lowest heat but highest blow. And we're going to come back and try to fill in some color on these birds where it didn't cover if they're dry enough. You know, and that blue almost looks black on that green. Sky up here. Okay, so I think I'll add a little white to that blue. Just a touch. I barely have any on my brush. Kind of give them a little definition there. On his back, on his tail, a little on his head. Same for this guy up here. And I'm like barely kissing the canvas. It'd be like kissing your little baby goodnight. Just barely. Because I just want to give it a little highlights, and I don't want to have to go in with my big finger on that little bitty bird and try and blend. So, and I think my purple on that belt was a little darker than I wanted. Rinse all this blue and white out of my brush. And I'm going to grab just some more white. I didn't want the blue in it. And let's see if I can make that look a little lighter purple. That's more the color I was looking for. Okay. I think, other than these flowers over here that we're waiting on, that we are just about done. I'm just adding some of that little purple white that was on my brush into the birds. Not a lot, just a little bit here and there. But I think we're just about done. I don't want them to look like crows. They're supposed to kind of look like bluebirds. Huge difference between student quality and professional artist paint, that's for sure. And I'm getting to find out for the first time just how much of a difference it is. You know, I love to paint, and usually I'm doing it late at night after everybody's gone to bed, and I'm still new at it, but I think we did a good job. So, other than these flowers, the only other thing you need to do is to sign your name. And you want to do that in a color that you have used in your picture. And I think I'm going to try and write it in pink. I'm just going to put my initials, so. And I'm going to put right down here in the corner, R, H, and a 15. And let's see if that yellow over there is dry enough. Because really you shouldn't sign it till it's done, but I'm sure you guys are about bored to death with this video. Okay, so now I'm taking my lighter yellow that has more coverage, and I'm dabbing over top of my yellow ochre in my cone. Oops, just dipped it in the yellow ochre. In my cone shape. And what are you going to use them on?
To cut the fabric.
Okay, fabric only. Those are fabric only scissors.
I know. That's why
okay.
I'm doing
So, this is the last one over here. Dabbing in some of that other yellow. Then the last step, once this yellow dries a little for us, is to dab a little bit of white on top of that. And I think our spring, what should we call this? Spring cottage garden, spring country garden, field of spring. You guys have to help me come up with a name for this painting. What should we call it? So let's go ahead and try that white. I'm getting impatient. I'm ready to clean up my mess and start doing some housework. Not that I want to do housework, but if I don't do it, it's not happening. I'm sure you guys know how that is. So help me out with a name. What are we going to call it? Don't forget to sign it. And, you know, frame it and hang it up. May not be your best piece of work. I'm not sure that I would say this is my best piece, but I would say it's an original. As I tell my oldest daughter Alex, this is a mom original. So this was a combination of watching a ton of videos, and I'll tell you, I had a tough time from falling asleep last night because I had all these ideas just roaming through my head, and I wanted to get in here and just get on the canvas. And I was up at 5 o'clock this morning, and I had to wait till 7:30ish for John to leave. And I was like, hurry up and go to work, I want to paint. Anyhow, I hope you enjoyed it. I hope it was helpful. I hope it's something that you'll paint and you'll hang on your wall and make it your window. If you live in the big city, this will give you a little abstract view of the country in springtime, and you know, use whatever colors you want, use whatever colors you have on hand. It's your painting. Just have fun with it, relax, enjoy the process. Thank you so much for watching. If you liked it, give me the thumbs up. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel. Hopefully I'll be doing some more paint along videos in the future. We will see what kind of response I get to this one. Thank you, and have a wonderful painting artistic day.